Hey everyone, Siggu here. Welcome back. So today we're going to dive into a really important topic from our KSSM syllabus, transportation. Now I want you to think of it as the ultimate delivery service for everything that's alive. It's how we get the good stuff in and the bad stuff out. Let's get right into it. So, have you ever actually stopped to wonder why your heart starts going thump, 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 thump like crazy when you're running? Or how a massive, tall tree gets water from its roots deep in the ground all the way up to the very top leaf without any kind of pump? Well, the answer to both these questions is all about transport systems. Okay, here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll talk about why these systems are so important in the first place. Then, we're going to zoom into our own bodies and look at the human blood system. After that, we'll switch gears and see how plants do it, which is super cool. We'll compare the two, and then, most importantly, we'll finish with the key points you absolutely need to know to ace your exam. Sounds good? Let's begin. Right, section 1. Why do we even need a transport system? I mean, why can't we just absorb stuff through our skin like simpler organisms? Well, it all comes down to how big and complicated we are. Okay, so the big idea here is something called surface area to volume ratio. For a tiny little thing like an amoeba, it has a huge amount of surface compared to its insides. So things like oxygen and food can just kind of pass right through into the cell. That process is called diffusion. But for us, we have trillions of cells. If we relied on diffusion, it would literally take days for oxygen to get to the middle of our body. That's just way too slow. We need something much faster, like a superhighway. So here's the main takeaway. A transport system isn't just a one-way delivery van bringing in the good stuff like food and oxygen. It is also the garbage truck. It's just as important for picking up all the toxic waste, like carbon dioxide, and getting it out of our system. It's a full-service operation. Okay, let's move on to our own internal superhighway, the human blood system. I like to think of it like our city's train network, you know? And the heart? Well, that's the main station, like KL Central, pumping blood out to every single part of your body. So what exactly is this blood that's flowing everywhere? It's not just red liquid. Actually, look at this. More than half of it, 55%, is a yellowish liquid called plasma. The rest, that 45%, is made of all the important cells. Your red blood cells carrying oxygen, your white blood cells fighting off germs, and platelets, which help stop bleeding when you get a cut. Now, blood travels on three main types of roads. First, you have arteries. A simple way to remember is A for away. They carry blood away from the heart. They have really thick muscular walls to handle the high pressure. That beat you feel on your wrist, that's your pulse in an artery. Then you have veins, which bring blood back to the heart. They have thinner walls and little valves to stop blood from flowing backwards. And finally, the really amazing ones, capillaries. They are unbelievably tiny, just one cell thick. This is where the real magic happens, where oxygen is dropped off and waste is picked up. Right, so you might hear the term double circulation and think, oh no, that sounds complicated. But it's actually super logical. It just means the blood goes through the heart twice for every complete trip around the body. Look, first, used up blood from the body comes into the heart. The heart then pumps it to the lungs to get fresh oxygen. Then, that oxygen-rich blood comes back to the heart, which gives it a second really powerful push to send it out to the rest of your body. See? 2 loops. And you know that lub-dub sound your heart makes? Ever wondered what it actually is? It's not the heart muscle squeezing. It's actually the sound of little doors inside your heart, the valves slamming shut with each pump to make sure the blood flows in the right direction. Pretty cool, huh? Okay, so we've got this amazing pump, the heart, doing all the work. But what about plants? They don't have hearts. They don't have muscles to pump anything. So how on earth does a tall tree get water all the way to its leaves at the very top? Well, the secret weapon for plants is a process called transpiration. Basically, it's like plants are sweating. As water evaporates from their leaves, it creates this suction force, this pulling effect. It's kind of like when you suck on a straw. This transpirational pull is so powerful, it can pull a whole column of water from the roots, up the stem, to the highest leaf. And just like us, plants have their own pipe system. There are 2 main pipelines you need to know. First is the xylem. This is a one-way street only, taking water and minerals up from the roots. The second one is the phloem. This is the food delivery service. It's a 2-way street that carries the sugar, or sucrose, made in the leaves down to the roots or up to the flowers wherever it's needed. All right, now for the fun part. Let's put animals and plants side by side and do a direct comparison. Seeing how they're different is one of the best ways to remember how each system works. This table makes it super clear. The biggest difference? The pump. We have a heart. Plants? Nope, no pump. Our blood vessels are all connected together in one big loop, or circuit. But in plants, the xylem and phloem are two separate systems. We also have valves in our heart and veins to control flow. Plants don't have any. And of course, the liquid is totally different. We have blood, and they have water with some dissolved sugars in it. So you see, completely different designs to solve the same problem. Okay, class, focus up now. This section is super important for your revision. Let's make sure you know exactly what the examiners are looking for so you can score those marks. For your exams, diagram questions are almost guaranteed. You must be able to label the 4 chambers of the human heart. No excuses. You need to be able to trace the path of blood and know how to spot xylem and phloem in a cross-section of a stem. Oh, and a very common question is to explain why an artery wall is thicker than a vein wall. Make sure you know that one. Now, let's try a classic exam-style question that requires you to think. Why does your pulse get faster when you do something like run or play sports? Don't just state the fact. Think about the reason. What do your muscles need at that moment? And here's the answer. When you're exercising, your muscle cells are working like crazy. To do that, they need a lot more energy. To make that energy, they need more oxygen and more glucose delivered to them fast. So your heart speeds up to pump the blood around quicker, delivering the supplies, and, just as importantly, removing the waste products much faster too. It's all about supply and demand. So, to wrap everything up, just remember this one thing. The transport system is literally the lifeline. Without this amazing internal delivery network, the trillions of cells inside any complex organism simply couldn't get what they need to survive. And I'll leave you with one last thing to think about. Now that you understand transport and transpiration, what do you think is the main challenge for a cactus living in a dry desert compared to, say, a water lily floating in a pond? Think about water balance. One needs to save every drop. The other might need to get rid of excess. Okay, that's it for today's explainer. Give that question some thought, study smart, and I'll see you in the next lesson.